Hi, this is Joel Breakstone with the Stanford History Education Group. Let's use lateral reading strategies to evaluate whether or not the Environmental Policy Alliance is a trustworthy source. First, to read laterally, we're going to open a new tab and conduct a search for Environmental Policy Alliance. Right off the bat, I'm going to engage in click restraint. This means that I'm not going to automatically click on the first search result because search results are not presented in order of their trustworthiness. You'll learn more about click restraint later in this unit. So I see SourceWatch right off the bat. Now it sounds like it could be useful and sounds kind of familiar, but I'm not totally sure about it. So let's see what else there is. I see here that there's a HuffPost article. I know there's some good reporting at HuffPost, but I also know that there is a large blog section. It doesn't have the same journalistic standards. So I'm going to see if there's still something better. There are some social media sites here. There is also something from, it looks like, the U.S. House of Representatives, but it says that it's a press release. So that might be a little more partisan. I might come back to that, but I want to see if there's something that I'm more familiar with, a source that I find more trustworthy. So I'm going to go to page 2. In research that the Stanford History Education Group did with fact checkers, we saw that fact checkers often scrolled through the entire first page of search results and then often went into page 2 and sometimes even page 3 of the search results. So here on page 2, I now see an article from a source that I'm familiar with, The Guardian. I know The Guardian's a generally reputable news source, so that's something I think I'd like to consult. The headline is also intriguing. It says, "Lobbyists dubbed Dr. Evil behind front groups attacking Obama." And in the snippet here underneath, it says, "Richard Berman routed funding for at least 16 studies and 5 front groups attacking the Environmental Protection Agency." Okay, well, I also have encountered Richard Berman before earlier in this course, so that piques my interest. So let's click through it and see what it says. So it says, "Lobbyists dubbed Dr. Evil, attack behind front groups attacking Obama power rules," and there's a picture of Richard Berman in the Washington offices of Berman and Company. Okay, so I'm definitely familiar with Berman and what he does. I'm just going to do a quick search here for using Command F for Environmental Policy Alliance, and then read just before and after the reference to it. So it says, "Berman's other forays into the environmental arena this year have been hard-hitting. One prime example was the Environmental Policy Alliance, a mirror image of the government agency." Oh, right, EPA. Which, according to the website, is devoted to uncovering and funding the hidden agendas, yada, yada, yada. The group oversees 4 projects aimed at discrediting the government agency and environmental and conservation groups. Okay. And we know something about Richard Berman already. If I didn't know who he was, I could spend some time reading more about this article to learn about Berman and the fact that he creates what appear to be academic or grassroots groups to advance the financial interests of his corporate clients. This is information that's really crucial to keep in mind when reading anything that the Environmental Policy Alliance website says. And I wouldn't have known any of this about the Environmental Policy Alliance if I had just used the CRAP test and stayed on that website. It's important to note here, though, that with lateral reading, there isn't just one way to learn more about a website. If I go back to these search results, I could have consulted some of these other sources. If I went to the HuffPost article and clicked through, I would have found out that it was actually written by a staff editor and not by a blog contributor. And it provides information that corroborates the Guardian's reporting. Similarly, I could have gone to that press release from the U.S. House of Representatives. I would have seen that it was indeed partisan, but it also includes a link to a Politico report, which confirms that Berman's firm manages the Environmental Policy Alliance. Through lateral reading, by leaving the website and consulting the broader web, I learned much more about the Environmental Policy Alliance than I ever could have if I had just stayed on the page and considered the questions presented by the CRAP test.